Welcome, everyone. We're going to take a couple minutes for people to filter in. While that's happening, take a moment to make sure your name reflects both who you are, where you're coming from today, and what your preferred pronouns are. And we can start the chat with things that you might hope for out of today's meeting.
Change my
So welcome, everyone. We're still waiting for folks to join on. Nicole, I'm assuming you're watching the numbers. So when you feel like we have, a good critical mass, we can jump in. And it's wonderful to see everyone and read about everything in the comments. I have to say, I am totally getting jazzed just reading what everybody is putting in the chat. We're going to give it like 1 or 2 more minutes, and then we will jump in and get started. And everyone is doing the assignment, putting your name, changing your name. So make sure your name has your organization and your pronouns. And definitely put into the chat what you're excited about learning today. Nicole, how do you feel? Think we should get started? Okay, great.
Carly, did my name fall off? This is Phyllis. Did my name fall off? Because I saw Phyllis Barajas, and then now I see Phyllis Maston, of course, but I don't see me.
I see you.
Oh, you do see me? You see Barajas? Okay.
Yep, I see Barajas.
Well, then why can't I find me?
Maybe because you're looking for yourself. Maybe that doesn't work, but I see you.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll just type in what okay, very good.
All right, so we're gonna get started, and I understand some folks may need to be off camera, caring for loved ones at home or whatever it might be. But definitely know that you'll all be participating, and hopefully when we get into small groups, it'll be a little easier for folks to share and see everybody. Root cause friends, I'm going to just jump in and get us started. Welcome everyone. I'm Carly Auciello. I'm the Chief Impact Officer at United Way, and we are thrilled to be kicking off our strategic learning work with all of you. Before I even get into anything, I wanted to actually turn it over to our CEO, Bob Giannino, who wants to share a few words of welcome as we kick off this work. So Bob, over to you.
There we go. I got off mute before anyone had to tell me that I was on mute, so that feels like a good start to 2024. Greetings, everybody. It's really great to be here. I know many of you, as I scrolled through the chat, I saw many familiar faces of folks that I've gotten to know over the years. And some of whom I've only met recently as new partners. But I'm Bob Giannino, and thrilled to be here. I just want to say a few things. The first is, let me be one of the last people to wish you all a Happy New Year, because I think that the time of doing that is almost behind us. We're so thrilled to have so many of you here and to see the response to the invitation to start our journey together. And so first, just want to say thank you to all of you for stepping into this opportunity to kind of co-create our path forward. Centering community leadership and the voice of those that are most regularly engaged in community and in practicing on the issues that we care most about is a real centerpiece for United Way's new way forward. And so we see this session today as the first of many ways that we'll be putting you and your thoughts and your voice at the center and the forefront of our thinking and planning as we go forward together. So the fact that so many of you all turned out today is really exciting, because I think it shows just how much you all are also in this with us, and our desire to lead and lead our work and to have this work feel different, really from the start. We are having a conversation today about systems thinking and systems learning and systems change. And, we feel deeply that the days of aggregating the results of all of our individual efforts as organizations and calling that a victory are behind us, and that the times and our communities and what we all need call for something very different. And in my opinion, that difference is rooted in how we think that the systems that we're engaging with each and every day need to change for the people whose lives we're aiming to lift up and to help navigate a new path forward. And that's why it is more than symbolic that the very first time that we're bringing you all together is to talk about the importance of systems thinking and systems change. So, excuse me, I'm going to stop there and just hope that you see and feel and experience the enthusiasm that I have for this conversation that we're about to engage in. But my enthusiasm is really among the mutest when you think about the team here at United Way, and so many of you all that I think share our belief that we need to be thinking about success as rooted deeply in how we think about the changes that need to happen in systems. And so I'm excited to be here with our colleagues at Root Cause and to have them play a role in helping to guide and navigate our way forward, and grateful for the opportunity to say a few words as we get started today. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Bob. And I echo everything he just said. I am thrilled to be here with all of you. I'd say that, to kind of remind us of what has brought us to this point. When we started our strategic visioning process and our request for partnership, one of the things that we really wanted to make sure that we were doing is centering community voice. And a big piece, our community is made up of our nonprofit partners and then those people that they are working with in community. And we want to make sure through this partnership that we are elevating all of those voices. One of the biggest questions that we got when we were doing the whole request for partnership process, either through the Q&As or one-on-ones, was, oh, tell us about reporting. What's reporting going to be like? I want to know how reporting's happening. And our answer back always was, we're taking a different turn. We're not having that traditional funder grantee relationship. We truly want to see our efforts as learning together and thinking about evaluation and learning in very different ways. And the pictures that you see on here of the geese flying is such an apt metaphor for what we are going to be engaging in, because in any of these formations, when geese are flying, sometimes one comes out to be the leader, they may sit back and be the follower, and that's really how we see our roles, in that we are going to be flexing and changing throughout this process. And really want to position all of you in that leadership role as we're all learning together. As we are focusing in on economic justice, financial well-being, shared prosperity, we know that the answers to the systems change work are not through our organization of United Way. They may not even exist within our nonprofit network. We're going to need to be expanding, but we know that we need to keep engaging and bringing that circle larger and larger and larger. So today's our first chance to do that. And as we were doing that, we knew that we needed an excellent and collaborative partner to have these conversations, to hold this work and to move us forward. And we are just so grateful to have Root Cause by our side in this work. And you will be meeting Lucas and Aaron in today and then beyond. Hopefully you're going to be as excited as we are about the work going forward. So I'm going to turn it over to Lucas to kick us off and to talk through some of our group agreements and the work ahead.
Okay, thanks, Carly. So that's kind of our general purpose broadly for all of this, but just to talk about what we're doing today, right now. And you can see on the screen, there's a couple of things we're hoping to accomplish today. And a lot of it is just introducing some language that we hope to be able to use together. And some of this might not be new to many of you who have been doing this work for however long you have been doing it, but we wanted to introduce it together because collectively we want to build some vocabulary that we all kind of have a similar understanding with. So we had built a bit of a shorthand that will help us as we work together going forward. And the other thing is we want to get to know each other a little bit. And so there'll be multiple opportunities today to work in small groups and to actually have conversations with some of the people on the screen. That doesn't often happen with a group this large. So hopefully you are ready for it. Our agenda today is going to be kind of three main beats. We've got two big topics that we're going to introduce and discuss. And then we're going to, at the end, try to show how they overlap into this thing that we're doing together, which we're calling strategic learning for systems change. As we get into it, I want to suggest some agreements for how we might work together. Sometimes when the group is smaller, we might co-create these together, but I'm just going to put these on the table and ask us to kind of agree to them as we go. So the take space, make space is one that might be common to many of these kinds of group norms lists. It's kind of the idea of managing how much room you're taking up in the meeting. So especially in our small groups, if you're the kind of person who likes to sit back and listen and not be the first person to speak, or maybe even the third person to speak, think about stepping forward and jumping in and sharing your ideas. They're important, and it'll be better if we hear them. On the other side, if you find yourself talking a lot, maybe make some room for other people to step forward. The second one about curiosity over judgment. we're part of the same team. We're here to work together. So if you hear something that maybe causes you to, have a reaction, like maybe your first reaction could be to ask some questions about it and draw more out, because we want to, have good intentions with one another, but also attend to impact. So let's take care of each other and work as part of the team. This next one is especially important for Zoom. We're here together, and it's going to work better if we're present with one another. We're going to be breaking off into small rooms of like 5 people. And if 3 of you are off camera and getting a snack at once, it's harder for the other folks, right? So when possible, please be present, be ready to engage, but at the same time, manage your needs. If you need to turn off that camera, we get it. Zoom days are hard days sometimes. So do what you need to do to be here when you can. And I think with that, I'm going to pass it to Erin to lead our first section.
Thank you, Lucas. Hi, everyone. I am Erin Rodriguez, Lucas's colleague at Root Cause, and I'm really glad to be here with all of you. And I'm also going to do a shout out that Carly forgot to the big crew of United Way staff who have joined today. So you'll get a chance to talk to folks. Hopefully everybody gets a chance at some point to talk to United Way staff in one of the breakout rooms. And also to the volunteers from the community impact community who have joined today. So welcome and thank you to all of you for coming. Carly, anything else you want to throw in before I jump into some systems talk?
No, so the Community Impact Committee are our volunteers that help guide our work and connect to the board. So I want to thank them all for being here today. They really have focused in on our whole strategic journey and are really wanting to get closer to the work that you are all doing. So they will be really critical partners to this work.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. It's really great to see those of you that I can on the screen. It is always so strange to know I'm talking to 230 plus people, but can only see 25 or 30 of you. And just want to say that our goal today is to really get oriented, to get grounded in some shared definitions. And as much as anything, invite all of you to really understand the sort of depth of commitment that certainly Lucas and I have seen from the United Way team to really shift approach. So in order to sort of do that, we really want to make sure we spend plenty of time on these first 2 concepts. So all of you should have gotten a little brief handout, just giving you a few different ways to think about what it means to see systems, to think from a systems perspective. So the first thing we're going to do in small groups is just talk about these metaphors and which ones resonate with you and how you sort of see your own organizations and programs as part of systems. But before we do that, I'll just ground us one more time in what we're talking about. So here's one more metaphor on the screen, this idea of a kind of spectrum. It's not an either or. There's a kind of whole world of elements that work together to create systems large and small and overlapping and all of those things. So we just wanted to offer you all one more way of thinking about this, a metaphor from our friends at the Groundwater Institute, where we sort of locate program thinking at this end of the spectrum where one might be doing work that addresses the needs of fish. So if you're, say, standing by your favorite lake and there are some fish floating belly up, you recognize that some of the fish are sick and you want to begin to take actions to fix the fish, to help the fish. So that's really where we're sort of locating programmatic work, where the focus of people and programs is on taking care of a need for a group of people. And then when you zoom out, you recognize that those fish are in water, and that water contains all kinds of other things, other kinds of animals. There's the sort of bottom of whatever the lake is made out of, the vegetation that grows in it. So as you zoom out, you begin to see that there are more things than just the fish that are impacting what is happening in that lake, and may in fact be impacting what is happening with the fish. And then if you zoom out still farther, you have a recognition that somewhere in that lake, there is a source of water that is coming in like sharks. Thanks, George. That is exactly right. There is some source of water coming in, and that water has come from somewhere. So the farther you zoom out, the easier it is to see that it's not just the fish themselves, but it is the lake in which they are swimming and the groundwater that is feeding this lake and many around it that really feed into the system. I also just want to say to folks who spend much of their time paying attention to people and to their immediate needs, that thinking in systems is not a way to minimize the importance of that piece of work. When there is a high need, it's important to solve immediate problems. So the goal here is not to abandon the solving of those problems, but to locate them within a whole and to try to figure out how the connections between the programs, the connections between the foundations, the connections between the collaborations are a part of the system. And it is only in paying attention to all of that that you can begin to shift how the system works. So hopefully that helps ground you all into the concept. And now we really want to give you a chance to talk to each other about it. So we can go to the next slide. And here's what's about to happen. We're going to break this big, beautiful group of humans up into too many small groups for me to count. There are going to be about 5 of you in each room. And these are the questions that we really want to give you to kick off with, and invite you to not be shy. There's no right answer or wrong answer to this. We are really just looking to get your brains working in new ways as you get a chance to meet each other. So as you head into your small group, if you're able to have your video on, that would be great. Folks, just really, take a chance to say who you are and begin to share with each other which of these metaphors has been most resonant for you and why. And as you've been thinking about those, can you begin to describe the groundwater that your organization is a part of, and what the sort of key connections and relationships are in that groundwater as you are focused on your work? And so, Nicole, I will let you send folks out. We are going to ask a few groups to share thoughts, ideas with us as we come back. So keep that in mind while you're chatting with each other.
Erin, how much time do you want to use for this first
10
breakout?
minutes. 10 minutes, please. Yep.
Okay.
All right. Hi, everybody. Hopefully, you all got a chance at least to introduce yourselves. Our 10 minutes went really fast. And now I'm going to ask some brave souls to consider sharing something that you talked about in your breakout room. Anybody feel brave enough? Just raise your hand, and we have time for 2 or 3 folks to share. And we would really love it if you did. Erica Hernandez, you've got your hand up. Go for it.
I love being brave. No, I got really excited just envisioning like a different metaphor. Like, what do I envision, right? And I envision that we are like an orchestra, like a harmonious orchestra. And each institution, and we were just talking about how this like collaboration is important, and that one institution or organization can't do the work alone. We need community. And so I think of all these different, or, institutions, organizations being an instrument that just plays this harmonious music that feeds our community. So my brain went a little musical.
That's awesome. Erica, where are you from?
Executive director from ACT Lawrence in Lawrence, Massachusetts.
Great. It's great to meet you.
My
Anybody else want to share? John, I see your hand up. Go for it.
A lot of us really kind of relate to the metaphor of the elephant. I think specifically for the work that we do, the idea that working with people who've been involved in the judicial system, the idea that you can judge someone based on one action versus understanding someone's circumstance, history, the environmental factors that lead to someone's context. That was the metaphor that seemed to resonate with several people in our group.
Great, thank you. And John, tell us where you're from.
From ICW in Boston.
Great, thank you. Rabbi Margie, you are my group. Thanks for raising your hand. Tell us what you have to say.
I wanted to just share like the metaphor that I shared, and then I was inspired by the first speaker to add to it, which is the metaphor of like that people are finding like babies in the river, and they're like, oh my gosh, there's a baby in the river. I have to save this one. And then there's another baby. You have to save that one. And then you go up the river and you realize that someone is throwing babies in the river and that you might want to stop them. But that like it might actually take some community organizing to get them to stop. And what I was thinking about is that sometimes I think when we talk about these things, it can be like, well, which is more important, like taking care of those babies or organizing to change? But it's so important that we have all of us. And I was just thinking about like, if some of the babies like quickly learn to talk and could be brought up the river to share their stories, so that the people that are in the community near where folks are throwing the babies in could be inspired to get involved, and just how important it is for people that are on the ground and having that direct experience to be sharing about why things aren't working, and that they're so often it's like they're a canary in the coal mine, to add another metaphor, but where we're trying to kind of treat the canary as if that is just what's sick, when it's actually like the whole coal mine. And it takes the story of the canary to be able to get us all to think that we need to leave the mine.
Thank you so much. And Margie, will you also tell us where you're from?
Yes, I am from the Essex County Community Organization, or ECHO, which is a network of 59 congregations that works on racial and economic justice.
Great, thank you so much. Well, this was just a toe dip into some conversations and some getting to know each other. So I want to really appreciate each of you for talking in your groups, and for the folks who shared. Please do feel free to keep your chats coming to as you have sort of insights or thoughts about this. And I am going to hand the mic back over to Lucas to take us to our next conversation. Thank you all.
Okay, thanks, Erin. So we're shifting to topic number 2, equitable evaluation. And I can share a bit of story. So my background is in education. I spent just over a decade working at the Nellie Mae Education Foundation, where I was part of the team that helped that funder shift towards racial equity as a focus. And as we were making that shift, we had to think very differently about evaluation. And so I have been guilty as a funder in the past of a really standard type of evaluation, which looks something like this. Like, we have a starting point, point A, we have a desired outcome, ending point B, and there's like a straight line that we imagine happening between these two things, and the evaluation is judging, did we or did we not get there, or like how far did we get? Did we cross the kind of arbitrary finish line? But at Nellie Mae, and for many others who are doing evaluation work and who are thinking about equity, there's a recognition that like this is rarely how things even happen, right? Like maybe that straight line is actually pretty squiggly because you're learning things along the way. Maybe at some point in the middle, you have to reboot your effort and you have a kind of new starting point, A prime, and you realize destination B is kind of not where we even want to go anymore. Let's go to C instead. But even this, like, it's probably likely to be more complicated than this, especially when you're doing equity work where the world that you're trying to build, we don't yet know what it looks like yet. Maybe it's kind of cloudy, the destination itself, because the journey of getting there, we are learning things that we're going to need in order to build this new world that we're trying to work towards. And so we can't even see what the finish line is, and that metaphor starts to fall apart. And oh, by the way, we're not even working alone. There's lots of other organizations that are on this journey with us, and they're all following their own complicated paths, and they're learning their own things. And so now, if you're a funder like United Way and you're working with multiple organizations, the question of, well, how do we know if we're making any progress? Or even if you're on one of these lines, like, how do we know like what progress looks like? And either you're stuck in some kind of grossly oversimplified version of success, or it's easy to get lost. And so the idea of trying to move towards a new way of thinking about evaluation, which is evaluation that promotes equity, that like leans into this, is what we're trying to get to. And so we have this framework that we're gonna borrow from to help think about, well, how are we gonna do this? And the way that the framework is set up is as a kind of a set of mindsets, and the language that they use is from the Equitable Evaluation Initiative. And we'll share out after this meeting, we'll share out some resources if you want to go read more deeply about this. But they talk about orthodoxy, so like the usual way of thinking. And they're saying, if we want to be more equitable, let's change our mindset in some specific kinds of ways. And they set up, there's a long list of all the ways that they suggest, like, think differently about evaluation. And I want to just focus on a couple of them that I think are going to be most relevant to our work together. And I will share resources afterwards if you're curious to dig more deeply into this. But so, for example, they're talking about, let's move from a fixed mindset towards a growth mindset. And anybody who works in education, this might be a common kind of idea. Or from rigidity towards fluidity. So that straight line picture, we want to give up the idea that evaluation is about did we or did we not cross the line. The purpose of evaluation is to learn things. We need to gather data and convert that data into learning that we can apply to the work that we're doing so that we can get better as we go. And if we're agreeing that we want to learn together and that we want to apply our learning, that means we have to be ready for a fluid, changing, evolving set of activities that we're even doing. And so that the evaluation of those activities needs to change with them as we learn along the way. So rather than getting flustered by the complexity of things, we can agree that that's the way the world is. We can plan for it and design an evaluation that anticipates that and actually encourages it. Like, we want there to be change along the way, because as we learn, we want to apply it and innovate and be creative together. Another pair are about kind of who is the evaluation for. In any kind of funding situation, there's a really strong power dynamic, right? You've got a funder who's signing the checks, and the evaluation is often thought of as kind of being for them. They are extracting data out of communities that they fund, and they own that data and they're using it. And I think the invitation is, like, we want to shift towards this idea of offering and reciprocity. So not even just we want to participate with you in an evaluative activity, but that the evaluation itself should benefit everyone. The data that we're going to collect through this activity belongs to all of you, and it should benefit all of you. The act of collecting it should feel like helpful to your work. It shouldn't be something that is difficult and pesky and annoying, but you got to do it anyway because you need the funding. It should be something that supports your work in addition to supporting what United Way is trying to do. And as we're back up and think about the whole system, we're trying to benefit Massachusetts and the communities of Massachusetts that we're focused in. We want there to be kind of this mutual benefit that the work that we do together will help United Way understand the progress they're making. And at the same time, it's going to help each of your organization understand better, where you fit into the bigger system picture and how you might do your work more effectively. And of course, trust, shared understanding, relationship building, the foundation of all of this work relies on some really deep relationship building. And so hopefully we're starting some of that today. I'm going to pause here, and we're going to go into some small groups again and discuss a little bit this idea of equitable evaluation. And this one will be a slightly longer conversation. We're going to go 15 minutes. But we'd like you to think about, what might it feel like to be part of an evaluation that is shifting mindset in the way that I was trying to describe earlier. Like, how could United Way or Us Root Cause as their partner act so that you would feel reassured that this is a mutually beneficial activity that we're doing in and not extractive, that there's reciprocity involved and that sort of thing. And then, if you've experienced evaluation in the past, what are some things that would be a signal to you that this is business as usual and it's not something new and better that would be a misalignment? Thanks, Kate, for putting those questions in the chat. Let me pause here before we go into the breakouts and just, are there any questions for clarification before we jump into discussion together? All right, let's try it. And yeah, we'll have 15 minutes. And this will not be the only time we introduce these ideas. We're going to get into them again in the third section. But yeah, please discuss these questions. And when we come back, as last time, we'll ask a few folks to share out. Okay, welcome back. I know our room's conversation got cut off at the end there. Hopefully you all had a rousing conversation as well. I would love to hear 2 or 3 comments from folks. Like, what did you talk about? What stood out for you in that conversation? I see a hand from Jill.
Jill from Boston Day and Evening Academy, but was in a room representing also the organization Eden and Fortaleza. And we just had a really about how unnerving. We're used to being told what to do, and that's known and it's clear, and just appreciating a process that opens up the world in a way that's just never done, particularly when we're in this position of more vulnerability. And so also some just discussion of what it feels like to have power shift and how uncomfortable and rare that is. So we don't have a answer besides just some nice sharing of feelings and the novelty of this and appreciated connection.
Thank you, and thanks for naming the complexity of it. But there's sort of some pros and some also some difficult things to process as well. A couple other comments. Gloria, do I see you unmuting yourself to jump in? Or maybe someone else? Oh, I see Ava, Rachel, and Catherine.
I just wanted to uplift that it was shared in our group that it would be wonderful for us to seek many different ways of seeking feedback, and especially uplifting community voice and possibly co-creating with members of the community.
Rachel and then Catherine.
Very similar to Ava, we discussed creating a process by which we can report more anecdotal information about our clients opposed to just those baseline numeric indicators, you know, number served, increasing credit score type of stuff, to actually really dig into the experience that our clients are receiving from our programs. And regarding to misalignment with our actions, our evaluative actions, we discussed the pitfall of asking our direct service providers to use a new type of software or undergo any sort of arduous process on reporting because they are already so stretched. We're on a nonprofit space, so we just want to like keep in mind that our direct service providers are already stretched, and we want to make sure the systems we implement help them instead of hindering their work.
What I was going to say has pretty much already been covered, but I was in a discussion this morning about a future grant and how we were thinking about it and building it along the lines of needing to have measurable outcomes, numerically measurable outcomes, when that might not perhaps always be the best way to get a sense of the success of a program or the use of funding.
Thank you. Okay, Paul, last comment, and then we'll move on to the next section. Wait, also Tony. Paul and then Tony, and then that'll be the last two.
So our discussion sort of led me to a question. I didn't ask it in the session, but the question is, how can the United Way lead other funders in this new way of looking at evaluation? So again, how can United Way kind of approach evaluation from a systemic perspective? Because it's one thing if the United Way changes what they're asking us to do for evaluation, but if we get 50 grants a year and all the other foundations are doing it in different ways, it's very daunting. So that would be a great approach, I think.
Thanks, Paul. I saw Tony's hand. Also, maybe your final comment.
Yes, so I think one of the questions was what would be one of the signs that we're going off track from this goal of having meaningful measurement. And one of my comments was that if we ever find ourselves collecting a data element that we can't explain to our actual client about why it's a success measure or why it means that they're moving in the right direction, we're probably collecting something that is more for a statistical purpose than it is for actually being able to talk about progress in a meaningful way.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And hopefully this is the beginning of a conversation, as you know, there's a lot to sort out about how we can actually do this. So I appreciate you for digging in so deeply right off the jump here. So looking forward to the work to come. And I think I have now the task of trying to explain more about what the work to come is gonna look like. And I will do this rapidly to honor the time that we have left together. But basically, so we introduced these two big ideas, right? Systems thinking, we just talked about equitable evaluation. So the focus of our work now is the overlap of the Venn diagram, right? Where do these things overlap? And that's what we're calling strategic learning for systems change. So if equitable evaluation is not focused on did we cross some arbitrary line, but more like learning what do we need to learn? And we're learning it for the purpose of systems change. So it's not, you could do strategic learning to improve your own organization independently, and hopefully you are doing some of that, right? To just improve the quality of your work. But we're doing this together as a group because we're all working in the same system together. We're for the same community. And so we want to learn what do we need to learn to benefit our community and the people that we work with. And to do this, so United Way has organized their thinking in their own theory of action. And I'm going to present a really oversimplified version of their measurement framework here and really just lift out pieces of it. So United Way is thinking about what they're doing, their own actions. If we do such and such a thing, we would hope to see some changes in the system. And if the system changes in those ways, that will lead to the outcomes that we hope to see. And I'll just put up some of them. This is not the entirety of United Way's framework here. But so, for example, some of the roles that United Way is hoping to play in the world is to facilitate relationships. They want to bring organizations together, not just into relationship with United Way, but with one another. As they do that, they want to build voice and trust in the community. They want to increase connection among the parts of the system and people in the system. And then there's also, like, let's try to change policy and change practice and the way people do things. And if United Way is doing those activities, maybe some of these systems level changes might happen. We'll see more collaboration across sectors. We'll see some of those policy practice capacity changes come to fruition. And that might lead to something like financial well-being, which is one of United Way's desired outcomes, or increased prosperity. And so you'd see embedded in this a kind of hypothesis. And there's several hypotheses in a framework like this that take the form of this if-then type of a statement. If United Way is successful in facilitating trust and relationships, then maybe we'll see more of that coordination, which could lead to improved outcomes, improved financial well-being. And when you have a hypothesis like this, and you're thinking about how do we know if we're successful, you can't only measure the outcome, because it won't help you. Even if you do see increased financial well-being, you won't know why it happened. All you'll know is that people are better off, but you don't know, well, what did we do to contribute to that? So a good evaluation system looks at all the pieces of the hypothesis, and you might even spend more energy looking at the first half of the hypothesis. Did we, in fact, facilitate trusting relationships among our partners? You got to measure that first, because that's going to change first. Trust will build before the outcome changes. So you want to spend time in that first year, first 2 years, really measuring that. Did trust increase in a noticeable way? Are more people collaborating? And so then even if you don't get to the outcome, but you've seen improved trust and improved coordination, and you got to some other place, now you can put together a story of, we did these things, this is what changed, and here's the destination that we got to as a result. And that's really useful information that you can use to decide, well, what might we do next? And you'll notice that that first half, the if part, this is where your participation is really important, because United Way needs a window on its own actions. They need your feedback to understand what their actions are looking like. Are they promoting trust? Are they like helping build the right kind of relationship? And your feedback on United Way's actions will help them improve their own activities so that we can move in the right direction. And so as an example of here's one of the population level outcomes that United Way is hoping to see happen as a result of this work is, we've got this really particular number that they've settled on as a good top line indicator. So the percent of residents who feel satisfied with their personal financial indication or financial condition. And so that's something that they can measure and pay attention to. And having that as kind of this lighthouse that's far out in the distance is the way to have, like, are we moving in the right direction? So as we're having the kinds of conversations that we might want to be able to have around, are we having the right relationships, that's promoting the right kind of collaboration, that's allowing this particular number to change? Like having the top line indicators that we all agreed on is important, will help kind of focus our conversations together when we're thinking about systems change. So, and this is where we're going to kind of work together and be able to co-create. What are these top line indicators? What are the data points that will help focus our conversations together so that we can pay attention to the right kinds of things? Like, we want to know, is United Way doing the right actions? Are we as partners with United Way doing things that are changing the system in the kinds of ways that promote the changes we want to see for the people that we serve? So I'm not sure if this is making a whole lot of sense yet, but we're going to get into it in a future meeting. And as a preview of some of the work to come. So we're going to work together as a team, some of you in different kinds of ways, and we're going to get into that as we close. But like, these are the kinds of questions that we're going to need to take up, right? Like, how would we, as a team of partners, support the learning needed to assess all the parts of the hypothesis? Like, what's the data that we're going to need to collect to give United Way the feedback that they need to see about their own actions? Because they're one of the things that's being evaluated as well, not just their partners. And then how can, having those top line indicators focus our conversations so that we're really paying attention to the right things? Like, sometimes when you're talking about systems change, we're backing up so far and we start to see, like, sometimes the groundwater is really these huge, seemingly intractable things. Like, when the Groundwater Institute talks about groundwater, they're talking about structural racism. And it can be very overwhelming to think about, are we fixing structural racism, right? So when you have specific top line indicators, it can help you focus your conversation enough so that we're dealing with manageable pieces of the system, and we can think about systems change in terms of what's feasible for us to accomplish together. And then, what are some of the other hypotheses that we can see embedded in the measurement framework? So we're going to dig into together the completeness of United Way's theory of action and work together to help them really see whether they're being successful with you as partners. And that's the project of the next several months. It's going to take a good chunk of time and a lot of opportunities for engagement and input. I'm going to pass to Erin to kind of close us out, but that's sort of a preview of what's to come in the next several months.
Thank you, Lucas, and thanks everyone who is still hanging on and listening in with all of us. My job right now is to say we are at the very beginning of what's next. So I hope that all of you really consider today an opportunity, again, to orient yourself, for all of us to begin to think about what are our common definitions of this strategic learning for systems change that we're about to embark on. We as partners to the United Way, and now partners to all of you, really intend for this to be a co-creation of a process so that we are learning together, and the systems that we all create together with each other are changing in ways that meet our goals. There's going to be a lot of different ways to dip into this. Not all of you are going to want to be in a sort of everyday meeting, and the beauty of this is that you're not being required to. But the next thing we are going to do as a group is send a survey to all of you as partners to try to get an understanding of how you would like to be involved. What are you already doing to think about this work, and how you would like to engage as we begin over the series of the next few months to sort of hone in on what this kind of learning agenda looks like. So I'd invite folks to, after today, just kind of bask in orientation for a little bit and not worry too much. But next week you will see a survey that will really sort of help us get honed in on next steps. Also, if you're the only person representing your organization here today and you think, I'm not sure it's me, it might be somebody else at my organization who should really be involved in this long term, that makes sense. Please feel free to bring your colleagues in the work and really give some thought in that survey to who the right folks are in your organization to get engaged. So that's it for today, although we're going to ask you all to do one more thing together. So Lucas has just shared in the chat. Don't go there yet, because I'm going to give you one more assignment before you do it. But Lucas has shared a really brief feedback survey. We'll be asking you to tell us how we're doing all the way through this process so that we can be responsive and learning and offering what you all need. But I just want to ask folks, and Lucas, if you'll go to the next slide, ask folks to just for 30 seconds, just give yourself the space to answer these 3 questions in your head. You can jot them down on a piece of paper, sort of based on this meeting, what you have learned today, something you like, something you wish you understood better, you wish we were going to do, you wish someone had been here, any kind of wish you might have from the time we spent today. And then I wonder, what's a question you have? And so I'd like to invite you all to answer each of those for yourself, and then choose one of them to share in the chat with everyone. So just take 1 second, and once you've got yours in, just take a second to take a look at what folks are saying.
And I have noticed a couple of people asked for the slides as soon as possible. We can make sure those go out today to everybody. It's
great to see these coming in. Folks who like getting to meet some new people, like getting to be in the same small group 2 times, being with like-minded people. Someone wonders how big of an impact we're going to have. So far, some optimism about that. Great. These are wonderful. Thank you all so much. Great. Well, we are at 2:27. Lucas, if you could put the link to that really brief feedback form at the bottom of the chat one more time. I'll just invite all of you. I promise it won't take you more than 3 minutes. So just take a second to give us feedback about how we did today. We will see many of you again in the future, and we're really glad you came. Carly, do you want to just send us off with any last
Sure,
bits
and I
of
also
wisdom?
noticed, Ngozi, I noticed that your hand is up. Did you want to ask something?
Yes, my wish was that I would have gotten to connect with everybody on this call. Is there a way that we might be able to follow up or get to know each other better outside of this?
So I'd like to make sure we have permission to share folks' contacts with everybody. Perhaps we can put that in the survey to everyone if folks feel okay about sharing contacts. I just don't want to do it if, you know, without folks' consent to that. And then we're happy to share that out as well. And certainly we can share out the list of all the organizations and some of that. So that would be helpful. That's a really good connect for us to do. And if there are other things like that that you just wish you had the chance to get to know, please put those in that feedback right now so that we can follow up on it. I did see a number of folks saying they wish they could connect to people within their issue area, and that's certainly something that we're looking to do going forward. But as Erin and Lucas said, this is really the beginning of the work. You know, we really hope and are excited to do a deeper dive into equitable evaluation, into our impact areas, into our geographies, and look forward to all of this and getting to know you all better and more deeply. So thank you all for spending your afternoon with us. We appreciate it.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Do you want
you.
to unmute yourself and say thank you as you go?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye,
everyone.